Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It's Friday, May 10th. So I thought today we'd talk a little bit about the sale barn continuation of trying to get animals down and a little bit of everything else. So stay tuned. Alright, so let's do a little continuation of where I left off yesterday for you guys that are interested. If not, I'm sorry. But I ended up picking up Jerry. Jerry was a kid that wanted to help us yesterday morning. I got him at 8 o'clock. And the deal is I give him at least half a day's work. He got a 5-year-old son, and the mom is a crack addict, something. But so you try to help people out that are willing to help themselves, and he's a go-getter. So we ended up picking him up, and then I had to get some more grain so I could get another round two of trying to get more animals into the corral. Now, when I went over to give him grain, every animal that was ready to come into that corral were all mama cows that were staying, and they knew they were staying. So they don't care. They know that I'm going to let them back out, right? So all of them are standing there waiting to get in to get their grain. And the ones that I want are either on the island out in the middle of the pasture or way up on top of the hill in the middle of the pasture. Most of them on top of the hill are laying, watching it's kind of like entertainment for them. Watch Eric run around the pen. It's got mud in it. It's 2 foot deep. But they're not coming down. So I went ahead and I was doing other stuff, trying to get them to have some interest to come down. So finally it came time I sent Jerry down with Claude and had him pressure wash some lawnmowers and my 4-wheeler that was right caked with mud, had him do that and side by side. Because what I find is when I'm trying to get him into the corral, I can't have anybody else around, especially a unknown. And Claude hasn't spent a lot of time with the animals this year, as much as he normally does. So they're not used to him. But if my animals see somebody that looks different, they take off like somebody just shot a shotgun in the air, or the horse derby, where they open the gates and there they run. Well, that's my cows. When they get, because you gotta remember, most of them are Angus, so they're kind of like that. The turkeys are, where you have one turkey looking all around while the other ones are eating. That's what these guys do. So I ended up opening up the corral by myself, put down grain, and of course I got about 14 animals in there, but all 14 are keepers that I don't want to go. So I kept half a pail. I kept trying to entice Charles. Charles was the one that he had escaped yesterday with Judy, the old cow, down the road, main road. So he and Ladybug are right there. So I'm willing to take those two. So I sprinkle out some grain where they can see it, and now it's got his attention from the island, where he comes running from the island over to get that grain. Now, once he gets to that point, he sees me walking over to that one feeder next to the fence, and I put some grain in it. He comes running in. Now I got one animal in there that I want to go. But I can't get Ladybug. Ladybug had been on the farm since she was, maybe 150 pounds sopping wet when I bought her. But she's a meet and greet. She's the one that the grandkids come up and she runs over and wants attention. But she's never been bred. I don't know if they just don't care for Jersey or what, but if I bring in a new animal, she'll run down and be their friend. So we got Chester in the corral, so I give Claude a call, and him and Jerry come back up. And I told him, I said, we'll just go easy with him, and I want to thin some of the mama cows back out before we start with Chester. So I got half of them out, and I told Jerry, I said, come on in here, just walk around the outer corner, around them. I said, if I can get them into the smaller paddock, I can shut this gate. Well, unbeknownst to me was the fence, electric fence, there's a chain there that you hook the gate with. So when I went to shut the gate with Chester in the smaller paddock, I grabbed that chain and it just lit me right up because it was still hot and it was hitting on that electric fence wire. So I could feel it go through my elbow right up to my teeth. So I dropped the chain. I'm holding on to the gate. So they had to run over and unplug the fencer so I could get the chain off from the fence where it was laying on. And what had happened is the day before, I didn't notice it, but the little bull that I tried loading had pushed the mesh fence right into a section of electric fence. So it electrified that whole panel where the chain was hooked to. Ugh. So he started looking at the hole that he went through yesterday, but I put the mini excavator right in that hole so he couldn't get through there. So he walked right on. Told Claude, I said, let's go. That's all we're getting today. All I got left is mama cows in here. They're on to us, at least for another week. So we took him down and dropped him off. And the guys that work at the sale barn, most of them are Jerry's family. And they were telling me about how I guess the little red bull that ended up weighing just under 600 pounds became known as Houdini because somehow during the night he had escaped his inside the cattle paddocks, which are 5.5 foot tall, and was running loose in the sale barn. Now, even if an animal gets loose, a gate gets left open, this or that, they can't get out into the main road, which would be crazy. So, but they can have at it wherever they want. So, when the guys came in yesterday morning, they found him loose running up and down the aisles. And the bull, he had settled down. So we got Chester unloaded and put him right in with them because we knew that they'd quiet him down. So then we went back down at 1:30, 1:45 for the auction. And I did all right. Them little guys that were feeders actually brought 2 something a pound, where my bigger guys brought $1.17 to $1.36. So the little guys that were 500 pounders paid almost as much, if not more, than the ones that weighed. The bull weighed 900 and the Chester weighed 900. But when the bull came in, the sale barn owner's son is the one that kind of moves him around the ring. And I told him, I said, don't trust him. So when he come in, he spotted John's son, and didn't he spin right around, lower his head, started throwing sawdust all over the pen. And John's son is hiding behind a wooden door that collapses in, so if you have to get somewhere, get out of the way of when it's angry, you got a place to go. So they sold him fast and then pushed him right out. Well, when the little red bull came in, one of the guys told the crowd, you might want to step back because that little bugger can jump just like a kangaroo. Well, he come in, he even squared off on John's son. But overall, the day went well. We got a lot accomplished, and we ended up with 4 animals going through the sale, puts money back in the checking account, thins the herd down. Round two is going to be next Thursday, the next Wednesday, Thursday, trying to get another load on the trailer. So the other part of this morning's video I wanted to talk about is when I see trends, right? And I try to see trends that are out ahead of me, what we're going to be coming up against. And what I'm seeing right now is a lot of the Chinese sellers. Now, you have to understand on the venues like eBay and Amazon, if you encounter a Chinese seller, they are working for China. China is a communist country, so the individual sellers aren't making squat. They're doing what they're being told to do. And what I've found lately, the past few weeks, is a new trend of, instead of, because I told you when you're ordering parts online, you have to be careful because they'll say this carburetor will fit like a gazillion models when it doesn't. It's more defined to maybe 4 or 5, but they list a bunch to try to get it sold. And what they end up doing is, I think if they have a lot of one type of carburetor, they'll just say it will fit all these things and just get it out. And I've been getting a lot of the wrong parts lately. And it's almost like they're trying to thin out their excess inventory of the harder sells per se. And that they're banking on you as a buyer when you buy that, is saying it's not worth the hassle of returning it. You're just $13 thrown out the window, and I'm not that way. You know, if you tell me it's supposed to fit, it better fit. So, in the past 2 weeks, we've had 3 carburetors that came through that were incorrect. Opened a return. I figured I'd get them sent back. All 3 gave a full refund, keep the carburetor. They don't want it back. And then I ordered a hydraulic pump for my John Deere 820. And get this is $700 and some for an aftermarket from China. If you go to John Deere, it's more like $2,900. So I ordered one. And I looked close to make sure the ports were the same. Everything was the same on the pump that I had and the pump in their picture. So I went ahead and I ordered it, and it came. Wasn't even close. Instead of having 2 ports on one side, it only had 1. On the other side, it had the 2, but they were spread out further. On the one side, your pump on that is you have your main hydraulic pump, and then you have your power steering pump on the front. They both return through the same hose and feed the same system. But on the pressure side, the individual, they put pressure to the power steering and to your hydraulic system. So, open up a return on that. Not as described. It doesn't even close. So I took pictures of it and I added it to the return. 3 days later, they give me a full refund. They don't want the pump back. So I'm not quite sure what's going on right now. I don't know whether they're exceeding what they can sell, and it's not worth. Why wouldn't it be worth trying to get back a $800 pump? It must fit something, right? That you can get $400 out of. But so I got the pump, hydraulic pump that they gave me, and 3 carburetors. All 3 weren't even close. If you're buying off eBay or Amazon, make sure that it's the exact carburetor that you have. Because they're banking on a lot of you guys buying it and putting it on your saw and either chalking it up to you ordered it incorrectly or something more serious than carburetor wrong with with the machine, the unit you're working on, when in fact it's the wrong carburetor. It may bolt up, but it's still the wrong carburetor for that unit, if you get where I'm going with this. So don't get discouraged and let them off the hook. They're hoping that you just say, screw it, it's not worth my time. I ordered it incorrectly, or it's... And the ones that are standing up saying, no, 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 like me, that no, they're just saying keep it and giving you a full refund. So just keep that in mind when you're buying parts online. And the other thing I wanted to touch base on, is along the same lines of, why are people buying off from eBay and Amazon their carburetors and kits and all that stuff? It's because an example was yesterday. Now, the guy's chipper had a Briggs engine on it, right? And it looked just like sand inside the carburetor. But we had tried stripping it down, putting it through the cleaner, for 25, 30 minutes, the ultrasonic cleaner. And it was almost like concrete. So I did the parts lookup on it. And if I went through Briggs, which I am a Briggs dealer, it was $176 for that carburetor. Now, to me, the whole chipper wasn't worth $176. We had gotten it above 90 psi, or I should say Claude did. But that's part of the problem that I'm seeing. Is when I went over to eBay, a Chinese seller was selling identical twin carburetor for $13.15, free shipping. Now, why wouldn't you take a chance? I mean, the customer is not going to be a happy camper at $178. So I started doing some digging. And in the industry, ever since COVID, if you look, most of your small engine parts, your farm tractor parts, your farm equipment, your lawn and garden equipment. I watched a video yesterday of a couple guys. That's all they do is trends on tractors, on the markets and stuff. And they were talking about, which I totally agree with, is that during COVID, you couldn't get a new one when you tried to order it, right? Because everything was closed down. So there for a while, used tractors were selling for more than what a new one would, because people still needed to update. People still were looking to buy tractors. And now you got all these people that are finding out that they can work from home out in the country and thinking, well, let's change what we're doing and move from the city out to the country, and let's get a tractor and live off the land and this and that. So there was an imbalance, all right? And a lot of these dealers you have to pre-order, right? Floor planning in some sense, but a lot of these, for Kubota and Mahindra and all the other ones, you have to pre-order. And sometimes you're not getting anything for a year out, right? So what happens? Post-COVID, most people went back to work. The tractor places started up. Workers came back and started making the tractors again. So they started filling the orders. And in turn, see, I don't feel sorry for the major companies, but they jacked the prices of their new up 38% over what they were post or pre-COVID. 38%. Because they thought the market could support it for a longer term. So now what you have is you have all these dealers sitting on excess inventory of brand new stuff. And used stuff that was selling really high because the new wasn't available now isn't selling so high. The new stuff isn't selling because now post-COVID, inflation went up, the value of your dollar went down, your disposable income is less, and now you've been shocked back to the real world of we have to go back to work, right? And that farm tractor or that beautiful riding lawnmower is going to be put on the back burner for another year. And when I say riding lawnmower, I'm talking the ones where you can get the tiller attachment, snowblower attachment, not your plain Jane lawnmower. But they jack their prices on those too. But they not only jack the prices on lawn and garden equipment, but the parts. They jack the number on the parts to make up for the money they lost during COVID. And now you're at a impasse of have the dealers, your shop owners and stuff have excess inventory that they can't sell, parts that they can't sell. To me, it's shame on the industry. Because why would you raise the cost of the parts and the equipment by 38%? Did it cost you 38% more to make them? Now get me, the inflation rate is 11 and you went to 38. And if you haven't figured this out by now, the only thing that ever comes back down is gas, right? Whenever they raise anything else, it doesn't come back down when the prices inflation drops. No, they hold it right there. And they're doing the same thing they did with the truck and car market. They're pricing themselves right out of the game. When you get a plain Jane Ford F-150 and you're paying almost 60 grand, there's something wrong. And the parts are even stupider. It's not just our lawn and garden sector that did this. It's the vehicle industry straight across the board. 38%. So why wouldn't you go for the carburetor on eBay or Amazon? That's $13.15. Over $178 for the OEM. I would. I did. I ordered for the Chinese one. But a lot of your aftermarket companies raise the price of their parts too, to try to make up. See, anybody that had any kind of inventory during COVID made out pretty good because they jacked their prices up, didn't they? And they thinned their inventory right out. And it was a cash cow. And they wanted that cash cow to continue. But now it's dried up. And we're at an impasse where your average homeowner can't afford the products that you're trying to sell us. Nor can we afford the parts that you're trying to sell us. And most of it's being sourced from the same place that we're getting our parts from China. So you can't say that, quality control, yes, I understand all that. You're probably better off, you probably got better chances of getting the correct carburetor with the OEM and the aftermarket versus the Chinese. But you're also paying a big number. And is it worth that to you? Or is it worth buying a couple of different carburetors off eBay to find the right one? So on that note, you guys have a great Friday and a great weekend. Hope you enjoyed the cow story and the steer and bull story. Ole. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching.